The numbers are out. It is that time of month. If you are in the Central Maine real estate market, stick around. We've got your November market update coming right up. Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. It is your Central Maine realtor, Nick Isgro with eXp Realty. And today we're breaking down all the numbers hot off the press so that you know what is going on here in the Central Maine market, making you the most prepared buyer or seller out there. Now, before I get into that, I want to welcome you here to the channel. If you've never been here before, we cover all things real estate here in the state of Maine, but particularly right here in the Central Maine market. That's what we're doing today. If that's of interest to you or adds value to your process in the buying and selling of homes, do me a favor, go ahead and like this video, hit subscribe, knock that alarm bell. You're gonna be notified every time we put out new content. Now, right at the top, as I always say, I want you guys to do a couple of things for me, a couple of favors as we're getting through this data here. It's important to know the data, but we wanna look at not just the number that I give you month to month. I want you to look at the trend line, because one of the things that we always forget sometimes is we're just skipping from month to month is before we make assumptions, asking ourselves, is this a seasonal trend? Where are we not just compared to the month before, but where are we compared to a year ago? What was happening in the market a year ago? What do we look like compared to that? Does this all make sense? Because at the end of the day, this purpose of this is, we want to wrap it up by making some predictions and feeling out where we are in the market now so that as you're out there making decisions for you, your family, your investments, you're making them based off some sound reasoning based off the data. First off, we're gonna jump right into the sales data so we can get the inventory numbers at the end. That's gonna be sales versus new active inventory, taking a look at the supply levels, and then we'll get into pricing after that. So right now, looking at the sales data, we wanna bring up new listings here in Kennebec County. Let's check this out. 152 new listings here in Kennebec County. That is less than we had a month ago, but just jumping right back to that prior thought about the trend lines, that was more than we put on last October. So in the month of October this year, we put on a few more listings than we did a year ago. Looking at this trend, it makes sense. We're heading into the later months. New listings, that number should actually continue to step down over the next couple of months as we get into the deep winter market. But in the meantime, it is less than it was a month before, a little bit more than a year before. All things considered, somewhat uneventful. Let's take a look and see what's going on with sales now. Bringing this right up, pended listings. 79 pended listings. As we've been continuing to see over the last few months, this sales activity is slowing down here. So this is the number of homes going under contract right now. Less than it was the month before, less than that the month before that. It is a trend line, but it makes sense. We're not adding as many new listings to the market. There is some buyer fatigue in the market. Buyers are getting pickier. To be honest, I was out all weekend showing homes to different clients out there, and people are really taking their time to think about things. Unless it's, one of those cream puff homes where everything's perfect and it has that perfect, spot in the niche market, it's going to be a little bit longer right now, and you'll see that days on market. The last few months we've been trending, more than a couple of weeks on market, and that's resulting in fewer pending contracts. But, not a big surprise there. This should help with the inventory numbers as we look at those. But now I want to take a look at what's going on in the actual sales. So these are the number of homes that we actually sold during the month of October. So how many closed sales did we get? Let's bring it up. 139 closed sales. So not only is this a drop off from the month before, but as you can see, like we just saw with the pending, by the way, a lot fewer homes being sold than the year before. So we are seeing less sales activity, slower sales activity here in the Central Maine market than we saw year over year. That said, these numbers are not huge, and so there's really not much to be startled about, nothing to write home about here. Now, looking at this, we did add more new listings than we added a year ago. We put fewer under contract, fewer were sold during the month. This should result in yet another bump in the overall inventory numbers. Let's bring it up here. Let's take a look. Total active listings, Kennebec County. 322 active listings. So that is a bump from the month before. That inventory is increasing. But when we look at a year ago, we didn't have that many fewer. It's just a little over 300 listings during the same time period last year. So, the way we got there was a little bit different, adding fewer homes to the market, having fewer go under contract. That's starting to build over and lay over into some higher inventory numbers, but overall what we're seeing is fairly uneventful. Those inventory numbers are staying right where they were a year ago, just like we're seeing with some of these other numbers. Just not a lot for me to say here other than, it looks like we're trending on more of the same. But let's bring up the actual months of supply. Months of supply is a great number to look at if you're a first-time viewer here. It's basically saying that if we were to add no new homes to the market, we sold everything we had, how long would that take? Well, a 6-month supply means a fairly balanced market between buyers and sellers. Of course, we haven't seen that in the last few years. It's been extremely oriented towards the seller. Let's see where we are now. Just shy of 1.5 months of supply. A month of supply last month. Looking at this a year ago, we were just over a month. You see, we actually got to almost the exact same number last December, last January. So, overall, what we're seeing here is a fairly stable market. And I think that's one of the things that we want to drive home here is there's a lot of talking heads on the news. I say this all the time. You got to stop watching some of that stuff. And they're there to drive, viewership and tell you all these things about the housing market. Well, here in Central Maine, what we are actually seeing, if we look at what's going on live time, the actual numbers, is more of the same. We're seeing a market that looks very familiar. It looks a lot like it did exactly 1 year ago. Hasn't changed much during the year other than some of those seasonal trends. It's still a seller's market. We are trending towards a little bit higher inventory. That does seem to be more of a seasonal thing rather than any kind of market shift. All right, as always, now where we got through the sales data, we want to jump over into pricing, and there's several factors that are going to that. We want to look at the days on market. That's going to determine how long are things sitting on the market. If we see a trend upward, sometimes it means we're going to see falling prices. If we see a trend downward here, we're going to see rising prices. That means things are just moving very fast as they come into the market. Then we're going to look at sale to price ratio. What are people actually getting? And the median sold price here in Kennebec County. So starting right off, days on market, check this out. 24 days on market. This has been exactly the same for the last 3 months. And if you look over the last year, there's been a little up, there's been a little down, but nothing to show any kind of major movement. We have had some of those flutters, especially in the spring and early summer, where if you had the right house and it was marketed right, we all had the stories where we'd go in there and we'd have an open house on a Saturday, the place was under contract by the end of the day. That is not the average case and has not been the average case for the last year here in Central Maine. And looking at this over the last several months, again, we're just seeing a lot of stability in the market. And we could debate whether that's good or bad as far as whether it's hedging towards buyers, hedging towards sellers. At the very least, we're not seeing some extreme shift that could be the sign of some other crazy thing happening out there that we'd have to factor in. We're seeing stability, and that's what I like to see in the market. Next up, we're going to bring sale to price ratio. This is if you put a home in the market, are you getting exactly what you're asking for? Are you getting a little more, a little less? Bringing this up, look at this. 100% sale to list price ratio. Not a huge difference here, more the same. Again, look over the last year. Sometimes we were a little below 100% list to price ratio, sometimes a little higher, particularly in some of those peak spring moments that we saw in the market or getting through the summer. Right now, we're not seeing that. What we're seeing right now is a stable market where roughly if you're pricing right, you're going to get basically exactly what you're asking for. Now, last month, I told you we were at about 97% of the original list price, and that was showing that there were a lot of price drops in the market, or price drops were happening. This month, we're really about 99% of the original list price. If we're factoring in, what a home finally sold for versus what it was originally listed for, that means that over the month of October, people were pricing more accurately. We worked some of those other ones out of the system, and price reductions are becoming fewer and much more rare in the market already. So we saw a little bit of a blurb, typical as we're getting into the fall market, and that pricing needs to kind of correct itself through seasonality. Now we're getting back to pricing correctly, getting basically what you're asking for. Now we're going to show the sold median price. I always like to look at this because it's going to show where are, roughly homes falling on the scale here in Kennebec County. And for all of those people that were talking about the big housing crash, big market shift, I've actually seen people talking about a market shift on social media here in Maine. Guys, it's been seasonality. There's not been a huge market shift this year like we saw last year. It's been a very different market this year, much more stable, much more just predictable seasonality to it. And as we bring this up, look at this. We actually saw a jump, $315,000 sold median price here in Kennebec County. Yeah, it's above where we were over the last year. Obviously, these numbers, unless we see a trend, we're not going to get too excited about that. But I think as we look overall, the numbers are, stable, up a little bit here. It does defy some of the, sky is falling type rhetoric that we've seen out there, but also probably not the biggest blurb that we're going to see over the coming years. All right, that is it. That is the market update as we head into the month of November 2023. Right here in Central Maine. And as you've probably seen and heard over and over again during this entire video, the message is more of the same, a lot of stability. It's going to remain a seller's market for the foreseeable future. That is my prediction. I don't see anything that tells me otherwise. We are seeing less buyer activity. We are seeing buyers being a little more deliberate, taking their time as they're getting through some of their decision making out there, but we're not seeing drastic changes. And the reason for that is inventory. Until that inventory number comes up, you can have, as many buyers drop out of the market as you want, but if the inventory stays squeezed, there's still buyers out there. Unless there's zero buyers, you're really just thinning the herd of buyers that were already looking out there. And that's why we're still at only a month and a half of supply. That's not very long given how we see things. And this is also defying all the rhetoric we see on the interest rates. Average interest rate right now here in Central Maine is, with a lot of our community banks, in the low to mid 7%. On the interest rate, I've seen them up as high as 8 or a little bit more if you're looking at second homes or camps in particular. That's not stopping people from buying. This is the new normal. I don't think rates are going to just drop immediately to 3%. In fact, if they do, it's going to cause another frenzy. It's actually going to cause prices to get more competitive because more people will jump back into the market. So what are your thoughts? What are your predictions? Always love to hear from you. Do you think we're going to see big rate drop? Do you think we're going to see prices come tumbling down, or do you think we're going to be, keeping steady until we hit the spring market where we actually expect prices to go up? I'm not a crystal ball here. I can give you my best comments. Love to hear what you guys are thinking. Go ahead, drop a comment below. Of course, if you're in the market and you're looking for some advice, or maybe you're not in the market, but you're thinking about some future move, you just want to get your ducks in order and you need somebody to jam out with on some ideas, all my contact information is linked in the post below. Feel free to reach out. Don't hesitate. I promise to get back to you. Of course, as always, I thank each and every one of you for sticking around to the end of this video. Until the next one, we'll see you next time.